Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to OpenMicVO. So glad you're here with us this Sunday evening. My name's Graham Spicer, and I moderate these Sunday evening get-togethers. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. First one is certainly um, don't want to dissuade you from participating actively in tonight's conversation. But if you're not actively participating in the conversation, please keep yourself muted at your end. There's a little microphone icon that'll appear in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom meeting screen. When you see that little icon, if you just click on it, it toggles your mic on and off. So when you're participating in the conversation, just make sure you're unmuted. But if you would mute yourself when you're not speaking, it certainly makes things easier with regards to background noise and echo and feedback, things like that. Second thing I want to mention is that we record every episode of Open Mic VO. So just keep that in mind. If you decide to share some information with us tonight, just be careful about sharing any information that might be proprietary or confidential, because once the recording is posted to YouTube, I can't really control where that ends up. Third thing is that we're all professionals here. Some of us just have been in the business a little longer than others. But if you're here and participating in tonight's call, you're taking your voiceover career seriously enough to be considered a professional. So let's make sure we treat everybody with the professional courtesy that they deserve. And those of you who are new to the voiceover business, just a reminder that there's no such thing as a silly question. Feel free to ask whatever questions you might have. Also want to mention that uh, World Voices is bringing you Open Mic VO on Sunday evenings. But please keep in mind that anything shared tonight, whether it's from me or whether it's from any of the other participants on tonight's call, isn't necessarily the policy of or the opinion of World Voices. So, with that said, we're talking about business and marketing tonight. Anything to do with running your small business as an entrepreneur, as a voice actor, or anything to do with marketing, how to go about getting new business leads. Those are the topics that are on the table for us tonight. I'm going to start unmuting people here. Once you see that you're unmuted, please either start the conversation off for us with a question or with a comment, or if you've got a story you want to tell us, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, please mute yourself. That way, we don't have any problems with background noise coming from your microphone. Also want to mention that the World Voices WovoCon is coming up in 10 days or so. Well, 11 days, I think it is, happening in Las Vegas at the Tropicana. There are still some tickets available for World Voices Conference or WovoCon. And if you're interested, you can go to world-voices.org and click on events, and you can learn more about it there. Just still unmuting some people here. Once you see that you are unmuted, feel free to get us kicked off tonight with the first question. That'd be awesome. A reminder that in order to take best advantage of Open Mic VO, you need to be running the latest version of the Zoom software application. So if you have discovered that you're not unmuted yet, it's because I can't unmute you because you're not using the latest version of the software. Uh, Downloading the latest version of the software is easy. You just go to zoom.us/downloads and it will prompt you to download the latest version of the software. So if you can't speak, if you find that I'm not able to unmute you, just head on out of OpenMicVO for a couple of minutes, download the latest piece of software, which will only take you a minute or two, and then come on back in and join us. Once again, tonight we're talking about business and marketing.
Hi, I have a question.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, as the case may be, Brent, wherever you might be. How are you?
Doing great, coming from Las Vegas, so I'll be seeing you at WOVO in a week or two.
Looking forward to seeing you there, Brent.
Looking forward to the same. Here is my question. I'm always curious about how much time allocation should be spent towards um, short-term financial decisions. So auditioning, things like auditioning, getting money in the short term, right? Versus how much time should be spent making long-term investments, right? So like marketing with all of that stuff. I'm doing it all myself. I don't have automation or that ability yet. It's a one-man show, so I'm wondering what your uh, opinion is on the percentage of time you allocate towards short-term money versus or short-term time investment versus long-term time investment.
Well, I'm definitely going to open that up to the crowd because I know that there's some people here that probably have some good advice on that. Um, in the meantime, though, as we're waiting for others to kind of come forward and offer something up, um, I think a lot of it, Brent, has to do with where you are in your career development. Is that obviously as you are getting established as a voice actor, you're going to have to spend probably a lot more time than you would normally think you would on some of those longer term marketing investments, and that is actually um, spending time doing Google research on the local production companies in your market and in nearby markets, and in reaching out to these people either via email or postcards or whatever. As you become more established, of course, you're going to find that some of these clients, they hang around and start giving you repeat business, and you're probably going to start having more and more success on, if you're using online casting sites as an example, you're probably going to be starting to get busier through the online casting sites as well. And you're going to find that less of your time is invested in some of those longer term marketing initiatives. So I think a lot of it has to do with where you are in your career at at this point. Are you fairly new to the business? You've been around for a while.
I'm fairly new, but I'm doing it full time. Uh, for the past, I've been studying for about 3 years now, and went full time about a year ago. So
Ah,
I'm
fantastic.
booking. Oh, thank you so much. I came from a performance background, so a lot of things kind of carried over, and were pretty seamless once I understood the way this business works, and again, what you just said, which is reaching out, doing all of the wonderful email marketing, which is huge right now. Um, so yeah, I guess now a year in, I'm wondering, do people do 50-50? Like, they spend half the day auditioning, the other half of the day marketing. Like, I'm very curious about it, just because I think that there's, everybody does it a little bit differently. So I guess I'm just looking for some insight.
Well, in my particular case, I would say that between 25 and 35%, so between a quarter and a third of my time is spent on what I'll call marketing activities. And that can be anything from just going back through past customers and reaching out to them either via email or sending them a postcard just to say hello and make sure that I haven't fallen off their radar. It could be I'm constantly working on updating a database of studios that I've identified through Google searches, or I've maybe auditioned for them on Voice 123 at some point, and I've made a note of their name. Um, so about a quarter to a third of my time is spent on those kinds of activities versus actually doing the work, paid work, or doing auditions. But I'm not sure where that fits into the bigger picture. If there's someone else online tonight that on with us tonight that has wants to share with us kind of their thinking on the percentage of time they spend on marketing activity versus actually auditioning or doing work, that'd be awesome if you'd share that with us. I'm just making some notes here. Once again, the question that's on the table is, how much time do you actually spend doing marketing activity versus auditioning or actually doing the work? And again, opinions from everybody, no matter whether you are new to the business or you've been in the business a while, are welcome. Would really love to hear from you.
Graham, this is Blair Seibert in Culver City.
Hello, Blair.
Hi. I was just going to share that it really depends on the day of the week for me, too. As I've heard from a number of people, especially Mark Scott, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and also doing cold emailing. But people are more responsive, and I do find this to be true on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and especially Thursdays. So I might spend more time doing some auditions on Mondays and Fridays than I would on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So just a thought.
So you use LinkedIn a fair amount for business development. How does that work out for you? Is that something that Mark Scott is a advocate of?
I think he is now. I will say I took Tracy Lindley's workshop on LinkedIn and was really inspired. It's been interesting because I actually did get my biggest client through LinkedIn. I made about $2,500 on a project that they were doing, and I later learned from him that the main reason he chose me, he made an anyway. He invited me to audition for something. I later found out he really pretty much chose me. He said because I had responded to his posts and no one else, or on a regular basis. Unlike, I guess, other voiceover people. He said he gets tons of voiceover, demos and requests, but I was the only person for him that had responded genuinely. I thought he had interesting posts, and I could say something genuine. How I've also used it, like I just finished an audiobook, and as soon as I've finished a project, I invite that client to connect on LinkedIn. I wait till we're through, and then I follow them and can keep up with them kind of that way. I was also listening to a podcast, the VO meter, the other night. I was listening to an older one, and they were talking about Google Alerts. And I know you were talking about calling people, sending postcards. I've had a hard time trying to figure out how to connect with my previous clients. I've sent out postcards and things. But anyway, I think the Google Alerts might be helpful because it'll allow me to keep track of, a dozen or so people. I'm newer in this, but a dozen or so people or companies, and will give me a reason, to reach out, whether it's through LinkedIn or through an email, but it will be more timely, and I think it will be more valuable. So.
Tell us a bit about Tracy Lindley and her course. And is this something that Tracy Lindley has available as an online course, or do you actually have to take it from her live?
I bet it's online at this point. I took it probably a year or two ago when she was just starting out, and they were live sessions. But knowing how savvy she is with technology, she probably has something online now.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Liz. Have you taken the online version, or have you taken hers as well?
I actually looked at it when she was first putting it together, and it's pretty amazing what she did. She's really figured out a way to work LinkedIn well. I've taken some of the stuff that she has done and implemented some of it. I think it's totally worth it for someone who's not sure how to approach LinkedIn. I would definitely recommend it because she really gives you some step-by-step stuff to how to go about finding people and how to approach them. So it's yes, but it is something that you can do online. I believe it's called LinkedIn Edge is the name of it. So it is online. Yeah.
Okay. I noticed Mark Scott, I think, also has a course on LinkedIn now.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
He just
Has anyone taken that? Any thoughts on that, gang?
he just did a live session recently.
Specifically on LinkedIn, Tim, or was it just a general Mark Scott business session?
Oh no, it was definitely specifically LinkedIn. It was 2 or 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds like he's going to be doing that probably 3 times a year.
Very cool.
I wonder if he has a session on at WovoCon. I wonder.
He's not going to be at WovoCon actually this year. He's not. He'll be at MAVO, but he won't be at WovoCon this year.
But yeah, so back to marketing. I think the amount of time you spend also depends on what you're doing. But he's big on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and I've found that to be true. I don't waste my time sending any emails or LinkedIn invites on Mondays or Fridays.
And that's just because the response isn't as good on Mondays and Fridays. Is that the case?
Yeah. I often find that when I invite someone on Tuesday, I get a response right away. Or especially on Thursdays. Thursdays seem to be the best. I mean, people I think are kind of winding down to the week. And of course, everyone, if you don't know, do not send the automatic invitation that just says, I want to link with you or whatever it's called. You do need to take the time to get to know someone, and you send a message that's specific to what they do and how you can support them. Of course, you're limited by the number of characters you can use. But yeah, I think if I say something that they can relate to and it's on a Thursday, I'm surprised. It's almost immediate for everyone. And people, and then also you can kind of tell sometimes some people really don't use LinkedIn much. I had one client, actually a client that I invited, and it took them a month to respond to my LinkedIn invite. And I don't think it was because they, didn't want to connect. It's just they didn't use LinkedIn much. So, but
I think
anyway.
there's also an interesting thing with marketing. A lot of times what we're so concerned about when we send something out, like we're waiting for that immediate response. And a lot of times, because I know that I do this, is that I will look at something and say, hey, I just want to take a minute to look at this, and I'll put a start on it, or I'll say I'm going to get back to this. And sometimes it does take a couple of weeks and a couple of months sometimes to get back. And I think we tend to, in today's day and age of immediate gratification and immediate response, it's like if someone doesn't answer your email within 10 seconds, you're like, wait a minute, where are they? So I think and I do understand the Monday and Friday, everybody's getting back from the weekend and, they're still drunk and hungover, or, but I think on the flip side of that, I think people are so connected all the time that you could send an email on a Sunday and get a response because people are so connected. I think maybe 5 years ago that was truer, I think, than it is now, because one of the things that I've found is I've sent stuff out not expecting a response and saying, okay, I just want to get this off my plate. If I'm getting stuff set up for the week, and I'll send something out and I'll actually get a response on a Sunday night. I'm like, I didn't mean to be worried to do that.
I have too. You're right. I have too. I've sent stuff out on Friday.
I just don't want people to feel limited and saying, well, the only time I should send an email is this. If it works for you, like I'm right now, as we speak, I'm going to be sending out about 75 emails tomorrow, and it's a Monday, but I'm sending them out because I've prepped them all and they're ready to go. And two is I want to just get them done and say, okay, I sent them all out, so if somebody doesn't respond because it's a Monday, it's okay. They'll respond or they won't. But I do believe, I think you're right, that a lot of times people, like on a Monday, they're ramping up, on Friday, they're ending. But I think if they get a marketing piece and it's something that catches their attention, somehow they will make a point of flagging it somehow to look at it. And I think in today's day and age, to limit yourself and saying, don't want to get, I don't want to do something on a specific day because in the past it didn't. I think things are moving so quickly and changing so quickly nowadays, that I think what works for you. If you happen to have a slower day and on Monday you can send out 10 emails, do it and just send them out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think too on Instagram and Twitter,
Yeah.
those are very different. Yeah, those are very different.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right. And that's the thing. It's like everybody is so connected so much. And sometimes you kind of have to take a step back and just say, all right, you know what? If I don't get a response, I don't get a response. And I think also for me, anything, if I get a 10% response on something, I'm thrilled with that, honestly. And I think it used to be maybe 3% was really good. I think it's gone up a little bit just because there are so many, it's so easy to respond nowadays to any marketing piece, whether it be an email or an Instagram post or a Twitter post. To just respond quickly is a lot easier than it used to be of writing down, sounding a letter, putting a stamp on it, getting it to the post office and sending it out. It's so, but it's so interesting with marketing. I have found you have to find what works for you. And I think that's the key. Some people are great at cold calling. Some people are great at LinkedIn. Some people are great at Instagram. Some people are great at Facebook. Find what works for you. And if it works for you, then just keep doing that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Liz, I'm glad that you're here because early on in tonight's show, I had spoken about WovoCon and the fact that there were still a few tickets left.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't have a ton of detail on that though. So
okay,
people can still go to the world-voices.org website.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. You can go to the world-voices.org website if you are a member, and you can absolutely still sign up. You may not get a t-shirt because we had to bring those and send those off to the printers. But you will absolutely get access to everything. And one of the things I want to be clear about is that whether you are a professional member of WOVO or whether you're an associate member of WOVO, you can attend every single session. It's not like as if you are an associate, you can't attend what we have put down as the professional track. Every member is able to attend every single session at the conference, because we want to make sure that people get the information that they need. The only thing that is only open to professionals is the master classes. And at this point, I think there's only 2 or 3 spots left in Bob Bergen's. Both Mary Lynn Wisner's and Jeff Howell's are all sold out. Yeah, WovoCon is a great place to learn, both for the professionals and for the associates, because there's really going to be some great information for everybody.
So tonight's theme is business and marketing. If someone was to go to WovoCon, are there lots of classes on business?
There will be. Topics? In fact, let me go. Graham, you're so good. Let me tell you what's going to be happening. So there's going to be, by the way, if you are a bilingual talent, specifically for Spanish, there is a Spanish track as well, where they will be talking about marketing and rates and contracts and things like that. There's going to be an audiobook session for people that are interested in audiobooks, also that's going to include marketing. There's going to be a great session by Natasha, all about generating content for newsletters and social media and how to get the word out about who you are. So that's definitely about marketing. There is what else going to be? There is going to be goal setting. There's going to be a great ethics panel about, some Canadian guy. It's going to be really awesome. And there's going to be building a successful e-learning business, maximizing both your workflow and also talking about how to market yourself to e-learning people. So yes, there's going to be, and that's just some of them. There's going to be how to advance and progress. Hugh Edwards from Gravy for the Brain is going to be there. So there's going to be a lot of stuff, both on the performance side and the marketing side, for people to come and learn.
I don't know if you've ever, Liz, been in one of Hugh Edwards's.
I have not actually. I've met him. I met him actually for the first time at Roy's Barbecue last week or 2 weeks ago. but I've never actually seen him speak. So it's going to be new to me.
He is phenomenal.
Great.
He's a very, very good speaker. He
seems like a
very
nice guy.
kind of straight up and straightforward with his message. It's not sugar coated.
Right.
And
that's great.
A ton of really actionable advice.
Wonderful.
I found him really inspiring. I went to there was a conference that Gravy for the Brain kind of founded and pulled
in
together
the UK.
In the UK.
In the UK, yeah. Peter was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. Peter was there. I was there, and I found Hugh actually presented 3 or 4 times over that weekend, and I found him really inspiring. So the fact that he's going to be presenting at WovoCon, I'm very excited about.
Oh, good. Well, that's great to hear. Thanks for that.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting some people that have joined us just in the past few minutes.
So I've got a question for Blair. Tim, this is Tim. You mentioned quickly that you were using the Google Alerts to keep track of your clients. That's kind of brilliant. Is that something that you're doing for a handful of clients?
Well, first thing, I just started this yesterday, so I don't.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, no. So what I did, it was interesting. I went through. So there's some great videos online at YouTube. Just type in Google how to do Google Alerts, and I put in the names of my clients, and unfortunately, some of them have very common names. And so I was worried that I would just be inundated, with articles. So for those people, I tried to just pick their company name. So some people I put their personal names and their companies. Sometimes I've just in companies. Some clients that I don't think I want to work with again, or I don't, well, I can't keep track of everything. And some clients I know, well, I worked for this one company and I know they just needed one thing. I don't think they'll ever need anything again. I've decided I'm not going to try to keep track of those people because I do feel like it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And to be honest, I am a little nervous about checking my email. Unfortunately, you have to send it to your Gmail account. Well, I've got a couple different Gmail accounts, but those are not things that I check regularly. Well, I'm going to have to now. So, now I'm checking 4 different emails every day, which I was like, shoot, I hadn't thought that through. I wish maybe there's a way to make it come to my voiceover email. Probably there is. I probably need to use
You can auto forward Gmail.
Yeah. You can actually set up who's your email with?
That's a good question. I'm not, you're asking me a technical question.
Because you can
GoDaddy, WordPress.
GoDaddy, yeah, with GoDaddy you can absolutely set it up because that's what I did with mine. Most of my hireliz.com, everything goes to Gmail. I don't do anything on webmail. So there is a way to do that. Okay. You can absolutely do that. And doing it with companies is great. You can also do Google Alerts on like terms, like for example, production studio or e-learning or bilingual or.
Well, I've been doing e-learning and voiceover, and I just get so much stuff that is not relevant.
Yeah. Well, so, especially with voiceover, you get voiceover IP, and you can do a yes but not, so you can do that as well.
Yeah, but no, it's specifically to watch my clients. And I guess if there's some people I want to be marketing to, I mean, I need to look at that list too. I do have a running list, but that would be a good idea. I should be putting their names in there too. I'm just going to try it out tomorrow. We're going to see what shows up after 7 a.m. because you can see what time it comes in. I'm just anxious to see. And I thought I would tweak I put in about a dozen. I thought, are we going to tweak those before we add any more? So, yeah.
Again, whatever works for you. And I think that's true, is that we can get so overwhelmed because there is so much like, you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this and you need to do this. Well, you also need to work. You need to, get your work done besides all the marketing stuff. So, but it is, and there is that balance. I mean, what I've found is really figuring out, like right now I'm on a LinkedIn and Instagram kick. Those are my 2 right now that I'm kind of working on. And it's sort of everything in moderation. My dad used to always say, it's like everything in moderation. And again, finding what works for you and what you're comfortable doing, because I have found, although there are people that love it, cold calling, not for me. I love, actually, in fact, at WovoCon, there's going to be a class on that. And I actually like going to them because I can always learn something, but it's probably not something that I'm going to do on a consistent basis, because I realized, even though I'm a voice talent, and yes, people want to hear my voice, cold calling's not my thing. But email or Instagram or pictures and things like that, love that. And that comes through because you enjoy doing it, and you're going to do more of it if you like doing it. If not, you're just going to keep putting it off.
Liz, talk to me about Instagram. How are you
I've
using
just
Instagram?
started.
What kind of content are you posting?
So it's interesting. I actually took Jonathan Tilley's Instagram workshop. He's actually doing one in San Francisco, I believe, on Monday, and in LA, I believe, on Friday. Yeah, I think that's it. So it's a very interesting way of doing things. It's also very strategic. And just like, actually, you were talking about Google Alerts and hashtags, you can do searches on hashtags in Instagram. And so you start following people that have that hashtag in their posts. For me, up until I started doing anything on Instagram, I send out an email. Blair, you were talking about Tuesdays. I happen to send out an email every Tuesdays to about a little over 500 people that are on my email list. A picture, literally just a picture. I call it Happy Tuesday from Liz. And the only thing that was on that, on my Instagram feed, were those pictures. I cross-posted it to Instagram. What's interesting with Instagram is there are a lot of creative people. And I would definitely suggest looking at what Jonathan Tilley is doing, because he's got, again, a whole course on this. But it's really interesting because there are a lot of videographers, there are a lot of production studios. And so it's also much more personal, in the sense of Instagram is sort of what Facebook kind of wanted to be, where people want to know who you are and what you bring to the table. And so it's not all about just my demos, or it's not just about pretty pictures and stuff. It's also about the captions, and it's also about, this is who I am, this is where I live, this is the stuff that I'm working on, this is how I see the world. So it kind of humanizes you on Instagram. I think that where other, like Twitter and Facebook, has become less of that, where it's much more of a shouting match, Instagram is much cleaner. Also, there's not this need, like on Twitter and now even on Facebook, of posting every single minute. Instagram's a once a day, maybe twice a day post, and that's pretty much it. And so there's less of that harried sense on Instagram, in my opinion. So there are a lot of creative people on there, and you can follow them without having to actually, like on LinkedIn. I mean, you can follow people and you can see people on LinkedIn, but you're limited. On Instagram, you can follow whoever. They don't have to follow you back, and you might not have any interaction with them unless you want to start that. But there's a lot easier access on Instagram than I think there is on the other platforms, because it's much more of a direct connection.
To me, Instagram's sort of like Twitter with pictures. Is that fair?
Kinda? Yeah, it is, but it's also, there's much less of a, Twitter can be into a shouting match, and Instagram is much cleaner and much calmer. It really is. It's a much calmer platform.
Liz,
so
do you find that Facebook is still a useful social media platform, or is it done?
Hi, I'm Liz. I'm a Facebook addict. I find that Facebook, there are still a lot of people. Now, here's the interesting thing that I don't know that you know. Facebook bought Instagram. And Facebook is trying to bring some of what Facebook was onto Instagram. And there are a lot of people that are not really happy about that. The users of Instagram are fighting the way that things are posted on Facebook. They're trying not to get people to cross-post onto Instagram, because they are two different feels and two different platforms. Do I think Facebook still has a yes, I think it does. I think the people that, if you stay away, and again, where we are today. If you stay away from religion and politics, unless you really curate your lists, I think it can be. I think it is changing, and I think it has gotten somewhat out of hand. But I still like it in that I have a lot of connections on Facebook, and I have clients that I'm connected with. Now, I'm one of those people that never had a business account on Facebook, and I don't have a business account on Instagram either. And that was for me a very strategic decision. I don't have the bandwidth in my head to manage more than one account on each platform. I just don't. And so that was a decision for me that, Blair, like you were talking about, connecting with people on LinkedIn and having people get to know you. For me, I am my business. I am, Liz, the bilingual voice talent. So I run my business as a business, but I am that business. And so on Facebook and on Instagram, what you see is me and my view of the world. So I have clients, I'm connected with clients on both Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And so I am careful. There is some self-censorship in terms of politics and in terms of, religion and all of that. I don't post about that stuff. But I find that there is again, with Facebook, you have a little bit more of an idea of what people are doing on a day-to-day basis, because there is so much more posting on Facebook than there is on Instagram. On Instagram, it really is, you post once or twice a day, and it's very rare that you see people posting 50 times in a day, unless it's an event like at WovoCon. Probably there'll be a lot of pictures posted, in the course of a couple of days. But that's not the norm in terms of when you're curating your own feed. So,
Hey, Liz, I'm so sorry. I'm curious about you talking about Instagram. I'm curious because it sounds like what you're talking about is a lot of good branding stuff. I'm just wondering, do you have a strategy in place on Instagram for actual like sales and conversion from that way? I'm just curious.
I'm just honestly, Brent, by the way, thank you for signing up for WovoCon.
Of course.
Do I have a strategy right now? I'm still learning it. I am still learning it. I will be totally honest with you. I'm still learning the ropes there. So this is kind of new to me, but yes, I'm starting to be more strategic about how I post and what I post. And I'm still learning that, hey, I've been doing VO full time for going on 14 years, 13 and a half, something like that. And I totally am upfront about saying Instagram is something that's very new to me. So that's why I took Jonathan Tilley's course, because he's put together something where he gives you some real strategies of here's what you can post for certain days or how to go about it. So that's sort of what I'm following right now. Of course, have I posted anything beyond Monday of this week? No, because it's been crazy WovoCon stuff. So so I am being more strategic when I can. Yes, much more than on Facebook. Facebook is much more stream of consciousness. I think that's a good way to put it. Facebook is much more stream of consciousness. Instagram is more strategic. You decide what you want to post ahead of time almost. Facebook is much more instant, like this is what's happening now. Instagram doesn't have to be. And that's what I'm learning that I didn't know.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I recommend Jonathan Tilley's course. I really do, because he really put a lot of work into it, and he's got some really good ideas and really good strategies. So I would highly recommend it. Is
his focus more on strategies towards the branding aspect, or is he also talking about strategies for finding? Because I've played around. Finding,
absolutely. How to go about getting in touch with people and getting in direct contact with them. Absolutely, yeah. He's all about that. He's all about making the connections, and it's all about making the connections. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the ultimate goal is to use it as a platform to convert and
absolutely. Yeah. If I wasn't clear about that, yeah, absolutely. That's his whole thing, is how to use Instagram to get more jobs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, you know, and please understand, I don't get anything out of, you know, saying he's got a great course. I paid full boat for it, you know.
Oh no, I totally get it.
And
Yeah.
so I don't, you know, I don't want anybody to think that I'm getting something. I'm not. I found value in it. And so I'm finding value in it. I'm like, again, like a lot of you, I find something and it's like, okay, let's see if this works. And it has been a very interesting process for me. He has in November, he's starting something that's called his 5-day Instagram challenge, which I did when he did it in September or beginning of this month or October, where for 5 days he tells you, you do this and this is what you're going to do and go and do this. And that was sort of me jumping in with both feet into Instagram. And so if you're interested in that, I would suggest looking up Jonathan Tilley's 5-day Instagram challenge. I think he's starting one. I think it's November 5th. So next week. Might be a good.
Are ads at all a part of his instruction in Instagram or running Instagram ads or Facebook ads at all?
I haven't seen that right now. Not at where I'm at the stage. I have not seen that. It might be further on, but I have not. He didn't really mention that in the course that I attended last week in the city.
Super cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. That helps out a lot.
Good. I'm happy.
Tonight's topic is business and marketing. Anyone else have questions for us with regards to business and marketing? Don't be shy.
Graham doesn't bite.
And feel free to type them into the chat box or into the Q&A box if you don't have access to a microphone tonight.
You're wearing Harlan's hat.
I am wearing Harlan's hat. I love this hat.
I love
Hey,
you some
Liz,
Harlan.
Steve, you and I talked about this, I think, in person, but I'm interested in other people's views based on what you said on cold calling. If you're not getting responses to email, are people following that up with other emails or people following up with cold calls?
So with me, how many times are you following up?
2 or 3.
Okay. Try 5. And I'm not being facetious. No, I'm not being facetious. I have found that's a really interesting thing is that a lot, and I don't know if you guys saw Seth. Do you guys know Seth Godin? Seth Godin had a really interesting post a while back that he had a friend of his, I believe at Sony Music, who, when musicians were pitching her, and she was a head person at Sony Music, when somebody first sent her an email, she would put it in a folder saying, I'm not even going to respond to this. At the second time that they sent her a follow-up email, she'd move them up the list. And she did this until the 5th email. At the 5th email, she then responded. And the reason she said she did that was because, again, this was with musicians, but we're creatives, we're voiceover people. If you're not persistent enough to send out 5 emails, then I don't want to work with you. Now, that might be a little harsh, but when I read that, I'm like, oh, once again, we're waiting for the instant gratification, and that really hit home with me. So now with me, after I saw that, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about someone not responding until after the 5th email. If after the 5th email they've really not responded, then they're probably not going to. But I found that post. I'm going to see if I can find the link to it, and Graham, I'll email it to you, and you can, or maybe I can do it. No, I'm on my iPad. I can't do anything on my iPad. But I'll send Graham the link, and maybe you can put it in the chat.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Interesting. Thanks.
Yep.
There's a reason why Geico and Progressive, these insurance companies, repeat their ads over and over and over again. It's because frequency matters.
Yeah.
People don't respond to the first time they see that Geico ad. It takes 10 exposures to it before you might actually take action as a result of having seen the ad. The same goes with us as we are trying to get new business, is that the first exposure isn't enough. You need to expose yourself to these prospects a half dozen times or more before you're actually going to attract their attention. doesn't mean you have to or that you should do that in any sort of annoying way. It doesn't mean you send them a postcard or an email every
Right.
week.
Right.
You know, you send it every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks, and you do that over a period of, 6 months or 8 months. I mean,
Right.
this business development activity is not something that you're going to start tomorrow and you're going to see results next week. It may be 6 months, it may be a year
Yeah.
before you really start to see the impact of your business development efforts on your business. But you will see them. It will happen. It just takes time. It takes patience and persistence.
To go back to my other question, though, does anybody use a phone call follow-up from an email, or do you continue just sending the emails?
I certainly have not hesitated to pick up the phone and call. But generally when I call, it's a warm lead. It's someone that I have at some point in the past auditioned for on an online casting site. So they have some familiarity with me, or they had reached out to me directly and asked a question about my service or asked for a price from me for some project. If I haven't had any sort of involvement at all with somebody, I'm kind of like Liz. And it's not that I think that cold calling wouldn't be effective. I'm not terribly comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Not at all.
So to follow up with your point, Graham, so when you are saying that you're not going to get results today, tomorrow, and Liz, you're saying instant gratification, I think an earlier question, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who asked it, but no matter what, you need to be doing some marketing, even if you're doing very well right now with doing lots of jobs. If you don't do some marketing, that pipeline takes so long to fill that if you let it go empty, you're going to have a really tough time building it back up. So if it would be awesome if you're working so much that you never have to worry about it again. But I think that most of us need to make sure that we keep stuff in the pipeline just in case our regulars go away.
Hi,
Well,
Tim.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Bob Bergen is a good example of this. Bob Bergen is Porky Pig. He's a very successful character actor and commercial actor. He's at the top of the game in Los Angeles. But Bob Bergen is the first to say that he spends, for every hour he spends in the booth, either doing work or auditioning, he's spending 3 or 4 hours reading the trade papers and in other working with his agent and reaching out to casting directors and in other ways constantly working on business development because he knows he's only as good as his last job. And this is a guy that doesn't have to worry too much as a general rule about where his next project's coming from, but he's doing a lot of business development nonetheless, for the very reason, Tim, you just mentioned, is that the business development work that you are doing today isn't going to have any impact until 6 months from now, potentially. And that's why Bob thinks it's so important that he keeps on his business development activities all the time, no matter how busy he is.
And by the way, I was wrong. It was not Seth Godin. It was Derek Sivers who wrote that follow-up email post. So I'm writing it in the chat right now. I'm putting it in here. So.
Fantastic. Just make sure you send it to all panelists and attendees, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yes. Thank you for telling me that. All panelists and attendees. Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to do that. I'm doing that right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good. It's because basically she says, I can't listen to everyone, so I can't know who's got the best music, but the ones who follow up show they've got the tenacity and drive to succeed. As long as their music is also good, then those are the ones I want to work with. And it's kind of the same thing with us. It's worth a 5-minute read. Sivers.org.
Send it on through and we'll make sure it gets distributed.
Yep, sivers.org/3n/3n.
We still have a few minutes left, about 10 minutes. Who else has got a question for us tonight?
Can you hear me, Graham?
Hey, Tina.
Oh, hi. You can. Okay.
We can hear
Hi,
you.
Liz. How are you?
Hi. Good.
Okay, first of all, for me, I'm still learning LinkedIn and I'm very slow because I don't use a mouse. I only use keystrokes. And a lot of these new social media websites for me with having no vision are pretty inaccessible still. They're trying to make them more accessible there, but they're not quite there yet. So that being said, I do a lot of cold calling still. So when I've done follow-up emails, I have found, and I just want to see what some of you have found. If I don't find a person's name to send the email to, or even if I call them, they'll say send, not even follow up, but the original emails, they'll say send your email to the info address. To me, that's a waste of time because I don't know if the whole team is getting it. I don't know. What have you found?
I've run into that on a couple of the ones that I'm sending out tomorrow. What I actually do, because I know it's going to an info, somebody's going to open it. So what I have done is, how do I have one of them? It's like, I hope that whoever's opening this email is having an awesome day. And just start it, it's just like, you know what? It's like somebody's looking at this email. We don't know who it is, but you're addressing it to that. And, I hope whoever you are that's opening this email, hope you're having an awesome day. And then go into whatever it is. Because sometimes it's an info. And sometimes that is the virtual gatekeeper. There is an app out there, that I heard about, which is called Contact Out, and you can use it on LinkedIn. It's really cool. Contact Out. It's actually a Chrome extension. It's a Chrome I don't know if you use Chrome.
I do. Yes.
You can add it as a Chrome extension, and it will it'll show you the emails that are not necessarily always seen in the LinkedIn profile.
Right. That's good to know.
You kind of sometimes have to find these little apps that
they kind of help out a little.
That kind of help out.
Contact Out is really good, but Tina, I'm not sure it's going to work without a mouse. So,
well, what's interesting, I've noticed that for me, LinkedIn on my phone is a little bit better on the computer. It takes me forever to go through, but it's a little bit better than on the computer. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But Contact Out is really good. It'll give you some information. It'll ask, is this the person who's, the same person? And then it'll find emails. It may even find some personal emails. You can decide to play that any way you want to play it. But it's a very good extension.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Also, when you're on a website, any website, there's an app called Hunter.
Hunter?
Yes, Hunter. And you have to upload it, but you click that button, and again, it lists all the emails for that company.
Oh.
Might be hidden. Sometimes,
awesome.
Well, sometimes they're pretty smart. There are a few companies that are pretty savvy, and they know how to block it. But it's amazing to me the email addresses you can find. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks.
At what point does this stuff start to get creepy?
It can be, but you know what? If it's a business, and that's the thing, is it used to be. I mean, so for example, on my website, my phone number and my email are on every single page. They're in the header and footer of my website, or they're on the header, actually not on the header and footer, but they are on every single page. And for me, the reason that I do that as a voice talent is, if a producer or somebody happens to be on my website, I want to make it as easy as possible for people to get a hold of me.
Right.
So that's why, a lot of people, well, I don't want spam. You know what? I've got spam filters for that. I want somebody to be able to pick up the phone or send me an email the minute they listen to my demos. So I know that a lot of these larger companies, they're trying to avoid people trying to find them. But again, I think it goes back to the Derek Sivers post is, if you want to find somebody and if you want to get a hold of somebody, there's a tenacity that's needed, and I think by some people can be appreciated, because you never know. It's like, oh my God, you're just the person I wanted. Or I was just trying to figure out how I was going to find somebody. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten emails directly from my website for people that have, contacted me saying, hey, I need something quickly, or I found you online, what's your quote for this project? And it's just, they found me online, and it was easy for them to get a hold of me. And so, yeah, the creepiness part, when we are on the other side of that, trying to get in touch with people, I stay away from, because Contact Out will give you a personal email. I will never send a business email to a personal email address. I won't do. I won't cross that line. But if it's a business email, and that's where you may want to, with LinkedIn, is try out a free 30-day paid account on LinkedIn, and see if because you can get 15 in-mails that you can send to people directly, to people that you're not connected with. I'm trying that now, where I've signed back up. I had signed up for it and had not done anything for like a year, so I canceled it. And then now I re-upped on that, because I'm going to be more strategic in sending out to people whose emails I don't have, but who I want to connect with. And so I'm going to send them an in-mail. And you can only do that. You can, I think, send one or two, I think, on the free account. You can send up to 15 on the paid account.
Oh, that's good.
So that's what I'm trying.
So I've got one last question. How many people here publish their rates on their website?
Nope.
I
do
don't.
not. I don't either.
I don't either.
So why?
For me, because I have, I don't want, well, there's two reasons. One, a lot of times it depends on the project, and also has with usage and all of that. But for me, for telephony and corporate, I generally have a set rate sheet, but I want somebody to contact me and tell me a little bit about the project. I don't want them to look at my rate and say, oh, she's too expensive, or no, don't want to deal with that. It's one more way of people to say, no, I don't want to contact her.
That's kind of the way I feel, because I feel like, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. Absolutely.
I feel like I want to ask them first, what kind of a budget are you looking at?
Right.
And take it from there.
There's someone online with us tonight. There's another Graham online with us tonight, and Graham does publish his rates on his website. Graham, you've done this for me before, but I would love for you to, once again, give us the highlights on why you think it's beneficial to you to publish your rate card. There's a clocking problem.
Yeah, that's something funky there.
Yeah, but man, that's kind of funny. He sounds like,
He sounds like a squirrel.
Yeah, somebody doing anime there.
Yeah,
exactly. So sorry about that, Graham, but obviously there's something wrong with your connection. So there's a clocking problem with your interface.
Graham, can you remember the highlights and tell us?
I'm just trying to remember. I can't, because it was quite a while ago, actually, when we had spoken about it, and I can't remember what it was that he said that he had, why he thought it was worthwhile.
Is that any better?
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
It was really funny.
I was in the middle of apologizing for my voice at the moment. Suffering a bit of a cold.
Oh, well, hopefully you get over that soon.
Thanks. For me, what it comes down to is just transparency in business. Somebody wants to buy my service, I want them to know how much it costs. I'm pretty clear on the site that obviously certain projects of a certain size or certain type, we're going to have to talk about rates. If it's a long form, if it's a video game, we're going to have to talk that through. But I give very base rates that are based on the GVAA rates. Here's a session rate. I think it's currently listed at $300, and that's your first 5 minutes, and then $26 for every minute after that of finished audio.
Okay. I mean, again, if it works for you, great. That's the thing. Everyone's got their way of doing it.
And I think there's something to be said about transparency. And Graham, I don't publish my rate card on my website, but I have certainly considered it in the past, and I totally agree with your reasoning.
Absolutely.
Thanks. I know I'm alone in this.
There are lots of art. There's Paul Strickwerda, who's a very well-known voice actor in the community. He published his rate card on his website as well. You're not the only one doing it.
No. And there's no, again, I think we can easily get into this is the only way to do it and this is the right way to do it. I don't believe in that. For me, it's not right, but that doesn't mean that for you it doesn't work. So good on you.
Absolutely.
There's no judgment. I prefer not to, but that's totally for what works for me.
So Graham, I hope you're feeling better soon.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Have fun in Nevada in the next weeks.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. It's in 2 weeks.
Is there going to be a hashtag we can follow along on?
There will be. Yes. It's hashtag WovoCon. So I have it as WovoCon V for WovoCon 5. I think maybe some people will also be doing WovoCon with the number 5, and definitely hashtag Wovo. So those three, you can follow
Excellent.
those three.
Thanks.
Yeah. And,
absolutely.
And I'm hoping, I'm hoping to actually do some stuff on Instagram because I was silly enough to volunteer for that. Never volunteer for something unless you're ready to do it. That's what the board is.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time, but we've had a really good conversation tonight. And Liz, thank you so much for joining us. And
absolutely,
another
pleasure.
Wovo board member, and it was so good to have you on the call with us tonight.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
So
I
until
wish I
next
was
week,
going to
everyone.
Wovo, but next year.
Next
Carol,
year,
you're welcome,
we'll
Carol,
do it.
whenever.
So until next week, everybody, have a great week. Work hard and book lots of work. We'll talk to you next Sunday evening. Bye-bye,
Thanks.
everybody.
Take care,
Thanks,
Graham.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.